Some natural disasters destroy a city. Others change the course of history. A volcanic eruption can alter the world's climate. A tsunami can reshape entire coastlines. An earthquake can transform how cities are built for generations. These disasters didn't just cause destruction. They changed the world around them. Here are 10 natural disasters that left an impact far beyond the places where they happened. In April 1815, Mount Tambora erupted on the Indonesian island of Sumbawa, in one of the most powerful volcanic eruptions in recorded history. The explosion sent enormous amounts of volcanic material high into the atmosphere. Villages were destroyed, thousands of people died, and the eruption had consequences far beyond Indonesia. The following year, 1816, became known as the Year Without a Summer. Temperatures dropped in parts of the northern hemisphere, crops failed, and food shortages spread across several regions. Snow and frost were reported during what should have been summer. The disaster demonstrated something remarkable. A single volcano could influence weather and agriculture thousands of miles away. Mount Tambora wasn't just a local catastrophe. It became a global climate event. Nearly 7 decades later, another Indonesian volcano produced one of the most famous explosions in history. In August 1883, Krakatoa erupted violently in the Sunda Strait between Java and Sumatra. The eruption generated enormous tsunamis that devastated nearby coastlines. The explosions were so powerful that they were heard thousands of miles away. Around 36,000 people died, with the vast majority of deaths caused by the resulting tsunamis. But Krakatoa also had effects that reached around the planet. Volcanic particles in the atmosphere contributed to unusual sunsets and atmospheric changes around the world. The disaster became a landmark event in the study of volcanic eruptions and tsunamis. It showed just how far the effects of a single eruption could travel. On December 26, 2004, a massive earthquake struck beneath the Indian Ocean near Sumatra. The earthquake measured about magnitude 9.1 and displaced an enormous amount of seawater. Within minutes, a devastating tsunami began spreading across the Indian Ocean. Waves struck coastlines across multiple countries, including Indonesia, Sri Lanka, India, Thailand, and parts of Africa. More than 227,000 people were killed or listed as missing. The disaster became the deadliest tsunami in recorded history. But it also changed the way the world thinks about tsunami preparedness. The disaster exposed major weaknesses in warning systems throughout the Indian Ocean. In the years that followed, countries dramatically expanded tsunami detection, warning, and evacuation systems. A catastrophe that crossed an entire ocean ultimately changed how nations prepare for the next one. On March 11, 2011, one of the most powerful earthquakes ever recorded struck off the coast of Japan. The magnitude 9.0 earthquake generated a massive tsunami that swept across northeastern Japan. Entire communities were flooded. Buildings were destroyed. And the disaster triggered the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear accident. The event changed Japan's approach to earthquake and tsunami preparedness and had consequences for energy policy around the world. It also demonstrated that even one of the world's most technologically advanced and disaster-prepared countries could be overwhelmed by a combination of extreme natural events. The disaster permanently changed the landscape of northeastern Japan and influenced nuclear policy far beyond its borders. On May 18, 1980, Mount St. Helens erupted in Washington state. The eruption began after a massive landslide removed the northern side of the volcano. A huge lateral blast tore through the surrounding landscape. Forests were flattened. Ash rose high into the atmosphere, and the landscape was transformed almost instantly. The eruption killed 57 people and caused enormous economic and environmental damage. But it also transformed volcanology. Scientists had an unprecedented opportunity to study how ecosystems recover after a massive volcanic disturbance. The area became a natural laboratory for understanding how life returns after a catastrophe. Mount St. Helens showed that destruction and ecological recovery can happen on completely different timescales. On April 18, 1906, San Francisco was struck by a devastating earthquake along the San Andreas Fault. The ground shook violently for more than 40 seconds. The earthquake ruptured a huge section of the fault and caused catastrophic damage throughout the region. But the earthquake wasn't the only disaster. Broken gas lines ignited fires that burned across San Francisco for days. At least 3,000 people were killed, and hundreds of thousands were left homeless. The destruction fundamentally changed how engineers and scientists thought about earthquakes. The disaster helped drive major advances in seismic research, earthquake-resistant construction, and understanding of the San Andreas Fault. More than a century later, the lessons from the 1906 earthquake still influence how California prepares for earthquakes today. In 1931, catastrophic flooding struck China. A combination of extreme rainfall, swollen rivers, and severe weather caused enormous flooding across major river systems. The Yangtze, Yellow, and Huai rivers were among the areas affected. The disaster caused widespread destruction, disease, famine, and displacement. The exact death toll remains difficult to determine because the disaster involved multiple hazards and unfolded over an extended period. But its scale was enormous. The floods demonstrated the devastating consequences that can occur when extreme weather collides with densely populated river valleys. They also became a major historical example of why flood control, river management, and disaster preparedness matter on a national scale. During the 1930s, enormous dust storms swept across the Great Plains of the United States. The Dust Bowl wasn't caused by one single event. Severe drought, combined with farming practices that left large areas of soil vulnerable to wind erosion. Massive clouds of dust traveled across states, damaging farms and making already difficult conditions even worse. Families lost farms and livelihoods. Many migrated west in search of work. The disaster transformed American agriculture. It helped lead to major changes in soil conservation, farming practices, and land management. The Dust Bowl became a powerful lesson in how environmental conditions and human activity can combine to create a disaster on a massive scale. In 1783, a volcanic fissure in Iceland called Laki began a massive eruption. Over the following months, enormous amounts of lava and volcanic gases were released. The eruption caused severe environmental damage in Iceland. Livestock died, crops failed, and the resulting famine contributed to a major population crisis. But the effects didn't stop at Iceland. Volcanic gases spread through the atmosphere and contributed to unusual weather and air pollution across parts of Europe. The event demonstrated once again that volcanic eruptions can create consequences far beyond their immediate surroundings. Laki is a reminder that some natural disasters unfold slowly, rather than in a single dramatic moment. In 1960, Chile experienced the most powerful earthquake ever instrumentally recorded. The magnitude 9.5 earthquake struck southern Chile and generated enormous tsunami waves. The tsunami crossed the Pacific Ocean. Waves reached Hawaii, Japan, the Philippines, and other locations thousands of miles from the earthquake. The disaster helped scientists better understand how earthquakes can generate tsunamis across entire ocean basins. It also reinforced the need for international tsunami monitoring and warning systems. A disaster that began on one side of the Pacific demonstrated that a natural disaster doesn't have to happen in your country to affect you. Natural disasters can destroy homes, reshape landscapes, and change lives in a matter of minutes. but their effects can last for decades or even centuries. They can change technology. They can influence government policy. They can transform agriculture. And sometimes they can even alter the climate. The biggest lesson is that Earth is constantly changing, and humanity is still learning how to live on a planet powerful enough to reshape entire regions in a single day. Which of these disasters do you think had the biggest impact on the world? Let us know in the comments. And subscribe to Mind Orbit Facts for more incredible stories about our planet, nature, science, and the forces that shape our world.